Today, on Be Something Wonderful, how remembering your new reality creates it. Astonishingly powerful. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Powerful video today. I want to talk about this health miracle with one of my clients. And the basis of today's lesson is really about the power of remembering your new reality. In other words, an imaginal act of creating a memory, a mental image of something that you're creating a memory of what you believe happened in the past. This is powerful because we believe what we remember. We believe in our past. Remember, there is no past. It's all now. So that's the power of an imaginal act, of using this technique that Neville Goddard talked about. He called I Remember When. And Neville Goddard used it in a couple different ways, or talked about it in a couple different ways. One, that if you want to have abundance and you want wealth, you could remember, I remember when I didn't have money. I remember when I was living in poverty, or whatever. And what he's saying there, the implication is now, that's what that imaginal act implies, is that you're wealthy now, that you do have money. So that's one way that he used it. The other is just remembering that you're wealthy and you've always been wealthy. I remember when I won the lottery, or I remember that I've always been wealthy. Either way, what's the power here? Remember, that greater consciousness that you are, that consciousness that makes that from where you come and of which you are made, right? Within that they're all memories, right? Creation's finished. Every possibility already exists as an image, or in other words, as a memory. Do you see it? We associate memory with things that we believe only physically happened in what we believe is the past. And we believe those. Not only do we believe them, we go beyond belief. We know it as truth. We know it as reality. That's the power of I Remember When. That's the power of an imaginal act of creating a memory. Because we believe in our memories. We not only believe it, we know them to be true. So we go beyond belief. That's why I always say, stop trying to believe it and know it. When you know it as a memory, you know it as an image, you know it as reality. That's the power of I Remember When. That's the power of creating a memory or a mental image of what appears to be a past event. Because remember, there is no past. You're creating it right now, and all those possibilities exist. So I want to talk about this today and more. With this client, he goes, you were right. He had 2 lesions discovered, 2 spots via an MRI. And he says, I spent all week trying to stay in the state of already being healthy. But in 3D, I still had fear. I even let out a cry, then remembered your words, Jesus wept. I've taught the lessons of when Jesus was in front of the tomb of Lazarus and he wept. Even the shortest verse in English, in the English translation, in Scripture, Jesus wept. In other words, Jesus felt those emotions, those temporary emotions and conditions. So this is what we talked about. Those temporary emotions, those temporary conditions don't define or determine who you are or your identity. They're just temporary conditions and emotions. You get to give them meaning. But even if you're feeling them, right, as feeling the fear and doubt, feel it, let it be there, allow it to be there, but it still doesn't define your identity. It still doesn't define who you are. You do. You get to determine who you are. Are you a person healthy or unhealthy? You get to decide that, despite the temporary changing emotions and conditions. So even with that doubt and fear, he imagined it anyway. Even like yesterday, we had a live stream, one of our most powerful live streams. Our 8th live stream, our 8th live event on the membership channel. It went about an hour and 20 minutes. But during it, I talked about a client that asked about their son's drug addiction. And then I mentioned that I lost a brother, my twin brother, who took his life by suicide, and 2 other brothers 3 brothers to drugs and alcohol and all of that type of thing, right? And in that moment, I felt the emotion. I felt the 3D conditions and well up in me, and I was even a little teary-eyed and watery eyes there for a moment. And then as that emotion turned to bliss and joy, knowing that the greater reality is we don't lose anything, that we're always connected, that we're always together, that the greater reality is I am that I am. Do you see it? It doesn't define who you are. Even as you feel it in the moment, right? And in my case, it was just a moment, but in his case, it was all week, doubt and fear. But he was still persisting in imagining, creating the memory that the doctor says you're fine. He created that memory. Here's what he says. I even contacted a hospital from 15 years ago. He had a car accident and a traumatic brain injury 15 years ago. He looked at, and he had them send MRIs over. This is how worried he was, how doubtful he was, right? Now he's digging up more conditions, right, to look for proof of who he is, right? Remember, and so they said, and he looked the MRIs over and over, he said. I looked them over and over, Tom. I couldn't see anything that resembled what they found. Couldn't find any lesions or spots. Couldn't find it. And so although he felt the fear, he kept affirming, I am God. And I visualized the doctor saying I was fine. This is what he says. This is his quote. I am God, and visualize the doctor saying I am fine. In other words, what did he do? What's the imaginal scene there? He's creating the memory. The memory that the doctor said he was fine. That image, that reality already exists. All realities exist. And when you imagine it, you're remembering it. You're remembering it righteously, right? As I talked about the movie Solaris, I remembered it wrong. Now you're remembering it righteously, right? That's the power of creating that memory. I remember when. I remember when the doctor said I was fine. Do you see the power in that? And so what does the doctor say? You're fine. Those words, you're fine. They seem to be old. Those lesions or spots seem to be old, and they're not getting any worse. They haven't changed, in other words. Right? And then he says, well, I have other MRIs from 15 years ago. And this was another country. He lives in another country. So he goes, I thought you might find this interesting in what the American doctors had. And they opened up those MRIs, and there it is. There are the 2 lesions. There are the 2 spots that he did not see. So he was thinking that whole time, doubting a little bit, worrying a lot, right? Feeling the fear that, these lesions are new. They're not related to the accident 15 years ago. But they were, and they were the same ones, and they're the old ones. Do you see that? That's powerful, right? They matched, the old MRIs that didn't match when he looked at them, matched. That's bending reality. That's what we're talking about. That's the miracles. That's how remembering it righteously works. I want to talk about this because remember, your source energy. There's only one emotion, and that's source. That's that love that you are. That's the one emotion. And source as love feels and knows. It feels love and knows love. It knows it. It's a knowing. It's not mere belief in being. It's a knowing of being. Remember, what is source energy? It's awareness or knowing. It's intelligence. It's knowing itself. It's the knowingness, right? It's a natural state of being. It's the conviction of reality itself. To know something is true or truth rather than merely believing it. That's why creating a memory goes beyond belief. It goes to a knowing. Because now that memory, all memories, remember, exist in consciousness. In what you would call your subconscious. And we believe in that. And remember, the subconscious sees it as truth, sees it as reality, sees it as the truth of who you are. So when you create that memory, that's true for you. Your consciousness accepts that as your truth. Right? Now you've created that new reality. Knowing is beyond belief. Where there's belief, there's always a possibility of doubt. Just like this guy had some doubt, this client. He had some doubt. He had a lot of doubt and fear, but manifested it anyway. In other words, created his new reality anyway, created the memory anyway. Well, how is that possible? Because remember, what you remember, you know to be truth. You go beyond the doubt, the temporary doubt and fear and conditions and trying to believe, and you go to the knowing that it is true. That's who you are, right? Belief can be shaken by changing 3D conditions of events and temporary thoughts and feelings, right? He was shaken by those MRIs. He was shaken by his temporary thoughts and feelings. He even cried out at one point, right? That's powerful, but it did not shake who he is. It did not shake the knowing, the memory he created, the visualization, the memory of you're fine. Wow, that's powerful. With belief or trying to believe, you're always looking for evidence or proof out there, right? What do the MRIs say? What do the doctors say? With knowing, you are the evidence and proof, right? You're fine. He imagined that himself, right? It's imagining himself with the doctor, and the doctor saying you're fine. You are reality. It's a conviction of already being that person and identity you desire to be. It can't be shaken. That's what Neville Goddard says. A conviction is not a conviction if it can be shaken, right? That's why assuming and imagining your desired end is so powerful. You move directly to the feeling and knowing it is true or truth versus trying to believe it. And why is it so powerful? When you imagine, when you go into an imaginal act, right? Closing your eyes, getting into a relaxed state or a state akin to sleep, creating a scene where someone's either congratulating you or a doctor saying you're fine. You're creating a mental image, but it's a memory. And remember, we believe what we remember. But it goes beyond belief. We know it as a truth. We know it as who we are. That's why imaginal scenes and assumptions are so powerful. They create these memories within us, these images that we know to be true. That's powerful. It's your truth or true. It's true or your truth versus trying to believe it. Very powerful today. Remember, awareness of being, I am, is the knowing within which you live and you move and exist and have your being. It's knowing itself. That's why, right? And nothing can disturb, alter, or change this awareness or knowing. Nothing can change that. Nothing disturbs you regardless of conditions. This is what Neville Goddard says. Nothing disturbs you, your sense of who you are, the knowing of your state, the knowing, creating that memory or knowing, remembering who you are, remembering that conversation. You imagined, you assumed, you affirmed who you are and what your desired reality is. That's what we're talking about. You imagine, you assume, you affirm who you are and what your desired reality or imagined end is. That's what this client did. Imagined, assumed, and affirmed it. I am God, right? And who he is in that conversation. And then this is what Neville Goddard says. That remains as an unalterable conviction. When you create that, it's an unalterable conviction. It's a knowing. It's beyond belief. Nothing can disturb or alter what you feel and know to be true because that's what Source does. That's who you are. It feels and knows. That's what we're talking about today. Conditions are conditions, but I am. Conditions are conditions, but I am that knowing. I am that conviction. It's beyond belief and doubt. It's beyond changing emotions. It's beyond changing events. That's why Neville Goddard says, when I speak of feeling, of wish fulfilled, I do not mean emotion, but the acceptance of the fact that it is fulfilled. The knowing that it is fulfilled. It's beyond temporary thoughts and feelings or emotions, changing emotions. Changing 3D conditions and emotions or feelings don't create or determine who you are. Your experience of reality doesn't create or determine who you are or your experience of reality. You do. Do you see it? You do. But if you believe those temporary emotions and feelings do that, then you feel it and you believe in them and you identify with them. And then that does determine who you are in your experience of reality. Do you see it? Not in truth, but in your experience it can, right? You are reality. That's beyond belief. That's beyond changing conditions. That's powerful. Every possible outcome or reality exists in consciousness as potential or a metaphysical image, or in other words, as a memory. This is powerful. It all exists as an image or memory, all potential. That you believe in your memories that exist in your consciousness. You believe in them, or that subconscious. Remember, what does it really mean, the subconscious? It means it's just below your self-awareness until you remember it. That's what memories are, right? They're in the subconscious, but they're really just in consciousness. We can call it subconscious. It just means they're below your current self-awareness until you remember them. Just like me in the live stream, right? I wasn't remembering that, my brothers, until that moment. Until that moment, I remembered it. It was below my self-awareness until it wasn't. And I believe that to be true. I believe in that memory, right? I don't have to try to believe it. It's a knowing. It's a truth within me. Do you see it? And that's the same with this client. In other words, you know them to be true or truth. But normally what happens? How do we create our realities normally? Well, we have a physical event. And then there's an image or a thought or a memory created from that physical event. Then we believe it, right? So we have a physical event, an image or thought and memory is created. This is all happening at the same time, right? Then we call that a belief. Then we get more physical evidence to confirm that what we believe. And then what we believe turns into a knowing. It turns into our new reality. It's what we know as who we are and know as reality. So think of this. So we got it backwards. We're allowing conditions to determine our new reality. Instead, go directly to the memory and the knowing. Do you see it right here? Go direct to imagining, remembering when you were successful, remembering when you were in love with your SP, remembering when you spent Christmas together. Go to that directly. You no longer need to believe it or see it or have physical evidence of it. Do you see it? You no longer need this or this or this. You're going to have plenty of that after, though, right? Right? Remember that it exists as true within your consciousness. It now exists within you as a memory, as truth, as a knowing. Do you see that? That's powerful. That's powerful. So we're going to get back to that. Remember, consciousness or the subconscious creates or manifests what it feels and knows to be true. What it feels and knows to be a memory, a truth, right? In other words, what it remembers, what exists as an image or a memory within it. And it's subject to, remember, that's subconscious. Or those memories are subject to whatever it remembers. In other words, whatever it imagines. It's subject to that, meaning that's how you create reality. Whatever you remember or imagine, that becomes your world. That becomes who you are. So that subconscious is subject to whatever it remembers. So in other words, then why not direct it? Why not go directly and consciously imagine, consciously assume, consciously remember something new, your new reality? That's why Jesus said, you believe in God, believe it also in me. In other words, you believe in the Father, you believe in the great I am, you believe in those subconscious memories. If you believe in those, then why not believe in me and in your I am to consciously imagine, assume, and remember it as you would like it to be, versus subconsciously or unconsciously or unwittingly allowing your reality to be created by what you believe to be true memories in your subconscious. That's powerful. In other words, imagine the scene, have the imaginal scene or act or memory, create it. Then go directly to the knowing. Because when you create that, you know it. Then that's your new reality. Do you see here? Much easier than waiting for physical events to happen, having an image or a thought or a memory about them, believing them, having more physical evidence, and then having that knowing as your new reality. Instead, go to the image, imagine it, assume it, create it within, get in the state akin to sleep, get in the relaxed state. Create that simple scene of being congratulated, the doctor saying, you're fine. Believe it, create it, feel it within, and go to that knowing, and that's your new reality. That's how it's done. I remember when. That's why that's one of the most potent techniques ever. I remember when the doctor said I was fine. I remember when that $1 million dropped into my account. I remember when traveling the world. I remember this. It moves you directly to the memory and image, to the knowing of your new reality and identity immediately. So it must manifest. It must be reflected in the physical 3D world. It now becomes your hologram. All memories or mental images exist, and they live and they move and have their being within you. Not just the physical events you remember, all events. There's infinite events you don't remember ever experiencing. Do you see it? And when you do, you change the past and you change the future. In that moment, remember, the present creates it all. He changed those MRIs. Do you see it? He changed those results by imagining in the moment, by remembering it differently, by creating that memory, by remembering when the doctor said you're fine. Change that MRI that he looked over and over and over again. Right? That's powerful. You change the past, you change the future. It all gets created now. How remembering your new reality creates it. Astonishingly powerful. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for being part of our Facebook group, the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors, at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful, for joining us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, for joining our TikTok at Be Something Wonderful, and our membership channel. Really big live stream that was broadcast on our 8th live stream on the membership channel yesterday. It went 1 hour and 20 minutes, our longest one yet. So many things we covered, getting a lot of comments from you on that live stream. Thank you. I enjoyed it just as much as you did. There'll be more coming on that, and also another video on the membership channel. If you're a member, thank you for joining. If you're not, check it out. There's a link below. Creators, with great love, with great lights and infinite gratitude, this is Tom in the studios here in Las Vegas of Be Something Wonderful. Until next time, we'll see you soon.